So, welcome to Accountabill, and today I'm joined by the amazing Kathryn McGarvey to actually talk to you about how not to waste money on marketing. It is possibly going to be an interesting exercise in the sense that Kathryn's going to come at this from a full-on marketing perspective, and I'm going to come at it from a financial perspective. So hopefully you actually take away some really good learnings from this. This is us. We are accountants, so we do your financial accounting and we report through to IRD. But at the same time, we actually do a lot of business development. For us, it is about working with you to develop your business and grow it so that you achieve what you want. And we also do bookkeeping for business owners, and our specialty is companies in financial difficulty or businesses in financial difficulty. That is my background, being ex-IRD and a company liquidator. I am able to actually help turn companies around and make them profitable. Today, there is only a small group today, so feel free to actually ask as many questions as you like. I have muted you all at this stage just so that we don't get keyboards and stuff in the background. But if you have a question, feel free to jump in and actually ask it. I think both Kathryn and I would rather you had all of your questions answered before you left today rather than actually hold back. 100% participation. There's no dumb questions. Today is fully interactive and it's about having fun. Life is too short, so let's try to enjoy this process. I make really bad jokes and Kathryn laughs at them occasionally for me, just to make me feel good. So feel free to actually jump in and join our circus. So this is Kathryn McGarvey. The reason why I work quite closely with Kathryn is she is my passion of empowering business owners to actually do well in their business. She speaks the truth, and she actually makes marketing fun and exciting. Like it is actually a daunting thing, like how to market ourselves, and she will actually push you to actually do what needs to be done, but in a positive way. She has huge successes as well as huge mistakes, and she's honest about these. And I think that's something that as business owners, we all need to share, that we all make mistakes, including me, and that's how we learn, by making mistakes. So I'm going to throw it over to Kathryn, and I'm just going to chime in and ask questions whenever I feel the need.
Yes, please do. And everybody, since we've got such a small group, if you do want to chip in or write some messages down the side that we can talk about later at the end, that would be great. I can't share my screen because you've disabled me, Haylee.
See, I was just checking to see. Okay, why? Now can you do it?
Yes, I can. Just got to figure out which one I'm sharing. I think it's that one. Can you see a big how not to waste money on marketing? Great. So that's what we're here for today is, I'm getting ahead of myself, sorry. How not to waste marketing. Sorry, the grammar of that sentence gets me every time, but I'm hoping it makes it more impactful and the message gets through to all our heads. So this is about how to not waste money on marketing. Just a quick intro for those of you who don't know me. As Haylee said, I'm Kathryn. I've been a marketer for a long, long time. I studied marketing at university when innovation was one of the real buzzwords, and we thought we were very clever talking about clicks and mortar replacing bricks and mortar. I've had nearly 20 years marketing experiences at big companies and small alike, so I feel like I've got a good grasp on marketing for any situation. I've also had 20 years of exposure to marketing stuff-ups, many of them my own, and I'm actually going to talk at the end or share at the end a recent stuff-up that might be interesting for people.
Not mine, is it?
No, but there's something coming up for you that you don't know about.
Oh, lovely.
Yeah. This is a famous quote in the marketing world that half the money I spend on advertising I wasted. The trouble is I don't know what half. This is from a guy that died in 1922 and was a pioneer of marketing, but this is a very long time ago. With all the digital tools and reporting and data that we have now, it's a lot easier to pinpoint where you are wasting money compared to in the old days. But I thought I'd leave that there because it shows that for a very long time, we've not really understood how you can identify whether you're wasting money or not. So I've got a few examples. They're all things that people have said to me over the last few years, and I just was going to read them out and we'll go through them point by point at the end of the discussion. I think a lot of them might sound familiar to many of you. So I've had people who have spent $20 or $25 or $50 boosting a Facebook post or an Instagram post, and they don't believe it got results. I've had a client who paid an SEO expert to work on their website and they're still not ranking for the keywords that they want to rank for. I had one lady, I gave a talk a couple of years ago at the Hawke's Bay Business Hub, and in it I said, whatever you do, don't just buy one ad in the back of Kiora magazine and think that that's going to work for you. She came up to me after the talk and said, I did exactly that. I paid $700 for a little ad in the back of Kiora magazine and it never led to anything. So $700 is a lot of money to not get any results from. I was talking to somebody about their branded notepads and they insisted that people love their branded notepads. Look, Rachel, I can see you shaking your head. I'd argue I love branded notepads. It's nice to have somewhere to write my shopping list, but it's really not going to make me choose that person to sell my house when the time comes to do so. This is one that is actually slightly untruthful. This is 4 years ago and it wasn't dollars, it was British pounds. But I met a lady from a charity who spent £27,000 on a website and they still didn't like it and it didn't work for them. We'll cover that a little bit later. This is from just a couple of weeks ago. We had an arrangement with an Instagram influencer, but we didn't get any sales from her. And this one is actually me when I worked for other people. That we spent $17,000 on market research and we didn't learn anything that we didn't already know. Do you guys have any that pop to mind that you might wonder whether it was a waste of money or not? If you have, put them in the send a message, and Haylee, I'm nominating you to collect any up to talk about at the end. But if as we go through there's anything that you think of, just drop them in there and we can talk about them once we've gone through the theory behind everything. So there are three, they're mine, but they're three golden rules to avoid wasting money on marketing, and I think you'll struggle to disagree with them. So the first one, like anything, is have a clear strategy. So if you don't have a marketing strategy in place, it's going to take you a very long time to get the results that you're looking for. And don't be put off by the words marketing strategy. They can be intimidating, but actually all it means is what kind of approach are you going to take to your marketing to get the results that you want. So you might use a social media marketing strategy. When you see ads on TV or in the paper, those are mass marketing strategies. To give a non-marketing illustration and also to show you how old I am, but to try and help you get your head around what a strategy actually is. So if any of you did OEs back in the 1990s, like me, there was a popular strategy behind having your OE, and that was, the end result was to have 2 years in London and travel as much as you could. There are different approaches, and one popular strategy was fly to London, doss on your mates' couches until you find a job in a pub, and then pay for your own rent, save up, go around Europe in a combi van with all your mates, and then come home. So that's one strategy. It's not one that I followed because I didn't have any friends that were over there, but hopefully that helps illustrate that strategy isn't a scary word. It's just a more intellectual sounding word for what kind of approach are you going to take. So the second golden rule, have an objective for every piece of marketing. So every post on Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, every flyer that you put out, every seminar that you host, have an objective behind it. So I might put Haylee on the spot in a minute, but me working with Haylee on these presentations, so this feeds into my overall strategy. One of the things that I want to, one of my strategies is to be recognised as a marketing educator. So this is perfect for being able to demonstrate that I'm a marketing educator. The goals for this presentation is to prove my worth as a marketing educator, be helpful, but also be seen to be helpful to the kind of people who are my target audience, to meet and connect with people, and also to add addresses to my email database, because that's another one of my key strategies, is to get where I want to be through email marketing. Haylee, what would your objectives be for running these seminars? I'm assuming some of them are on a similar line.
Pretty much. Mine is very much around educating small business owners. And yeah, it is about actually, it's probably more branding for us, is making people aware that we actually have a network of people that we can call on to help. So like, we're not just, and you know, Rachel referred to me as the mafia the other day because I'm quite well connected and can help people. I love that too. I'm still using mafia. And so that, for me, is very much why we do what we do. It's about connecting people with the people that can help them.
So I think that comes through when I see your Facebook posts, the other seminars that you host. There's a very clear strategy there. And like, not every single Facebook post needs to be about education. It can be building trust, showing part of your personality, but as long as in the back of your head you're thinking, is this getting me closer to where I want to be? And the third golden rule for avoiding wasting money is to measure and evaluate everything you're doing. And this is, I feel like 85% of marketing activity that small businesses do is put out into the world, and the results are judged on gut feel or instinct, not on data. If you don't measure, you can't really definitively say whether something's been successful or not. And near the end of the presentation, I'll give you some tips on how to do that.
Kathryn, would you say that there is, that if you spend $1,000 on marketing, is there a formula about what that should actually bring in sales?
No, because it depends on your objective. If you're trying to raise awareness, that's going to be a different measurement than if you actually want to make sales.
Yeah.
At the end, I've got an example that might help illustrate that a little bit more. So sorry for that non-answer. Okay, some common mistakes that will cost you. not knowing that there are better ways to do things. And this is not normally a business owner's fault. Unless they're a marketing expert, they should know better ways to do things. But if you're good at what you do and focused on what you do, nobody expects that you will know every little marketing tip and trick, but there are lots of pitfalls that you can fall into that we'll discuss in a second. That means you're going to be wasting money because you don't know differently. Another costly mistake, and this is where Haylee and I might spar later on, is thinking you are saving money. This one I see all the time, and I see it, I have seen it as much when I have been an employee in somebody else's business or corporation than as much as I do within small businesses. So it's certainly something that's very widespread, and that's being reactive rather than thinking strategically. And as we've already discussed, the whole piece around measuring results. So the costs of not knowing that there are better ways. So not truly understanding your audience is a big cost. If you don't know who they are, what they need, what their interests are, sorry, little fly, and where they get their information from, or how they consume social media or other types of media, your marketing might not reach the people that you need to see. I'm always baffled when I see ads, when I'm looking at news online, for example, for things that I have expressed absolutely and utterly no interest in. I know that nobody on my devices has looked for this kind of information, so it's not a retargeting thing that somebody else's profile is being targeted, and they don't fit my profile at all. So just in the last 2 weeks, I've had ads for how to get a carry and conceal gun license. So clearly geographically, their targeting is way off. And even if I were in the right geography, I'm not interested in a carry and conceal gun license, especially not at the moment. So there's a waste of somebody's money. I've had rude suggestions on what I can do to shift my stubborn belly fat. And I'm looking at you all, and I think we've probably all had those ads, and they're absolutely and utterly unnecessary. You've probably seen ads in your social media feeds that hold no interest for you whatsoever. Last night, I went on Instagram specifically to look at the ads that I got, and I found one that was relevant. It was for a cat food, and my daughter has created an Instagram account for our cat, so I am liking that. So there is some history of me liking cat-related posts, but that was the only relevant one. This one I really don't get. The account is called Work From Home Desks NZ. Now we've all been working from home, probably some of us are still there. I really don't understand how that guy's going to get any work done, because you can't use a keyboard when your hands are on a bike. And in fact, I went into the account to find the post that they'd boosted, and there are comments underneath saying, how does this work? Because you can't work if you're cycling. I can see where they're coming from, but to me, that one completely missed the mark. The rest of their account, actually, the furniture I really like, but I think they chose the wrong image. I'm remembering it for the wrong reasons. And I'm not going to buy a desk that I put a bike on, because I don't understand how that's going to work. And then in my Instagram stories, I had one about non-plastic stickers. I don't use any stickers for anything. I'm not an Apple manufacturer. I'm not somebody who would package things up and put stickers. So I feel like that one's a waste of money. I'm really not an artist. If any of you have seen my little sketches when I try and illustrate points, I can't even draw a circle. So I'm not going to be a person who's up for a weekly newsletter for artists. I'm flattered though. And I don't drink, I certainly don't drink beer, and I don't drink. So those are 4 ads that really haven't hit the mark. Now, you're never going to be able to get the perfect audience, but the narrower you can focus your attention, the less that it's going to cost you and the higher your chance of success. I'm going to tell you a very quick story about when I worked at the National Bank near the turn of the century or the millennium. One of the products that I marketed was personal loans. And in the lead up to Christmas, I still feel a little bit icky about this. We thought, what better time for people who have paid off a percentage of their loan to offer them a top up with no fee attached, so they could top their loan back up. We'd make more money from the interest rate. Within a banking environment, there are people whose job it is to make sure their risk is minimized. It took me 3 months to get my campaign fast. By that time, Christmas had been and gone, but they were so risk averse that they made us have a very, very, very narrow criteria on who we could. This is how old it was. This was sending letters in the post. And we had a very tiny window of the type of people that we could send these letters to. Now, an average uptake on a piece of direct mail like that in a campaign is 2 to 3%. Ours was 14 point something percent, which is a huge result, but it's because we targeted it really well. So we actually spent less money on the fulfillment, on the postage and the printing, and we got a better result because we were really finely targeted. So rather than what we used to call spray and pray, which is what I feel like these examples are spraying and praying. They've not hit the mark for me. I don't know whether you guys see ads like that you think this is somebody wasting their money, but this is a really easy thing to fix, is just be a little bit more defined and know your audience a little bit better. So another cost of not knowing that there are better ways is expecting too much too soon. Marketing is a long game, and it's easy to lose heart if you don't see results that you're expecting, but this is really not the time to stop marketing. It's the people who can market consistently that will gain traction and get the results. You need to be prepared to invest time as well as money. You need to understand that quick wins are great, but they're not going to always accumulate. You might have a really quick win and a great success, but you can't necessarily replicate that week after week. To give you an example, when I launched, or about people's impressions, when I launched my website for the first time 5 years ago, a week later, my mother said, "Are you flat out?" Because she assumed that making something go live, she didn't understand all the stuff behind it. I don't know quite where I'm going with this, sorry. People will have expectations. Ignore their expectations and work off your facts. And if anybody can figure out what point I was trying to make, feel free to put that in the chat. Sorry.
I think like your mum thinks you're amazing, Kathryn.
She does. Just as a quick aside, she saw I put a post on about a certain client who'd got their first 5-star Google review, and she texted me and said, "If I could, I'd give you a 5-star review as a daughter." She's really got low standards. Another cost, and I've had an example of this with a client just last week, is opting for something that looks really good over something that's effective. I would much rather that you don't spend money on getting the fanciest, most beautiful marketing materials and website in the world if they're not effective. I found it really hard. I wasted a lot of time on Google looking for examples of things that are beautiful but not effective, and it feels kind of mean to put them up. Also, I didn't find any that people have put up for show, so I opted to show you the opposite of effective and not attractive at all. We all know the Google homepage. Nobody's going to say that's beautiful, but it does what it's there for, which is to get you to search. It's very clear what you're expected to do. And this little snippet here on the left is the website for Warren Buffett, one of the richest people in the world, his investment firm, Berkshire Hathaway. He's got all the money in the world. He could have a really fancy website, but he actually doesn't need to. What he needs to do is show credibility, and I guess all the regulatory side of things as well. So much as I would like him to have a more attractive website, that clearly does the job that it needs to do. And another cost is believing what experts tell you. So when you're, I can see you nodding your head, Haylee. I was going to ask you about this at the end of the slide, but please make sure that the people that you hire to give you advice have credentials and experience in what they're advising you on. Check their references, look at their reviews, ask for examples of things that they have done. My earlier example of the client with the SEO, I think she might have hired somebody who emailed her and said, I mean, you've probably all received those emails saying I can get you to the top of the Google results. They did things in her website that we now call black hat tactics because they're dodgy. They were okay 6 or 7 years ago and now they're not. So she spent, I think she spent about $900 and didn't get their results. Get the results that they need. Or the example that I was just talking about with the website, these particular clients hired the designer who designed amazing packaging for their product. It's a beautiful product. You'll pick it up off the shelf compared to any other product because it's so beautiful, but he's not a website designer. So they've got a really beautiful looking website and they're not going to make any sales because of the way that it's put together. So marketing experts, digital marketing experts, some of them give bad advice. I'm not one of them, at least I hope not. And Haylee, I imagine you've got your own examples, not necessarily in the marketing world, but where people lose money or waste money.
And I think one thing that Rachel's just commented here, so sometimes people have credentials, but they're out of date, like especially marketing, and even in the industry that I work in, it changes almost weekly at the moment. And so you've got to actually keep refreshing your skill set. So you probably want to be looking for someone that is actually going to be doing professional development and actually continually upgrading their skill set. You know, from where I sit, it is really difficult when I see a small business owner being sold a $10,000 website, and they actually don't need a $10,000 website. It's around, you know, social media management. Yes, okay, a lot of people, there's companies out there that you can palm off the social media to, but you still need to have your own voice. Like if we look at your personal branding and things like that, your personal branding comes through in your Facebook posts and in your social media. If you're going to hand that off to someone else, you end up getting lost. And so make sure whatever relationship or professional that you're working with, you still actually have a say in what's going on, and it's still you, I think would be the key. And don't pay a small fortune for it. There are some out there that will charge you $1,200 a month, but then you don't get any results and know what's happening. So it is really difficult.
You know, your point about people not keeping upskilled in a fast-moving world, I think it's unfortunate that it's not all as easy, and some of you might have heard this anecdote before, but you know, when you're traveling in New Zealand and you need fish and chips because you can't be bothered cooking, and you go to a fish and chip shop and it says, voted the region's best fish and chips 2016, and you think, hang on, what happened in 2017, 18, 19 and 20? You can tell straight away that there may be a problem or there might not. That's up to you, but it's not quite as easy for people to recognize when the advice they're getting is old hat, like my client with the SEO stuff. didn't know any better that those were actually dodgy tactics.
So here's a question, Kathryn. We've just said small business owners, be prepared that whatever someone's telling you may actually not be the right thing. How does a small business owner actually know when they've been given dodgy advice?
That's why I suggest the reference checking, the review checking, like Janine, for example, here on the call with her 57 5-star Facebook reviews and her 5-star Google reviews. Anybody looking at that is going to feel pretty comfortable that they're going to get good service from her. You can ask, I've done it before, is ask to be put in touch with previous clients. There can be issues in that, you know, they might give you a client who's their mate or a client that they've done their one really good job on in the last 12 months and they're not giving you the people that they haven't. But ask around, do a bit of Googling to try and understand what is best practice, or, you know, I hear a lot of bad advice. You probably hear a lot of bad advice. I sat at a cafe once, minding my own business, but obviously not minding my own business, because I heard a man behind me with a compendium looking very official tell people that they didn't need a website for their particular business. Some businesses don't need websites, but from what I was earwigging, they definitely did. But he convinced them that a Facebook page was adequate. Facebook page is risky if you don't have a website to back it up. You're at the mercy of algorithms and hacking. So I don't know the answer to that, Haylee.
So then there's a question here. Should we have a list of credentials, PD qualifications on our website?
That certainly helps to add trust and credibility. But I'm just thinking personally, I haven't had any official qualifications for 5 years, but I read all the time. I invest in programs that help me, but don't have any accreditation. So, you know, for you, you can probably put a list of official qualifications, but not every service owner is going to have that.
And I think too, there comes a point, like my sister's got her PhD, blah, 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 blah. You know, it's very, very academic, long list of qualifications. But for me, I'm more about the people. So yes, I do have qualifications, but for me, it's more about helping people achieve and feeling confident and stuff like that. So for me, I don't know whether qualifications would actually help me, because that doesn't indicate who I am and what I can do.
Here, I've got my pointy pen out now. Testimonials. So this is why testimonials are important on the website, on your website, and genuine testimonials with people's real names and faces if you can, and business names. So, yeah, I don't know about you, but those shift your belly fat websites, not that I look at them, because see, they always have things like, you've changed my life, KM Napier. You know, KM Napier could be me, and I don't want everyone to know about my belly fat, or they could be made up. I mean, you will have seen testimonials that you think, I don't think that's true. So having testimonials with a real name, a real face, a real business name that people can then Google if they want to and check that it's legit, that all helps. And having them where people can see them. So you build your crust and credibility. Also, your trust and credibility. Can you edit that out?
No, because that would be, you know, it's all about having fun, Kathryn. Did you not see the rules of the game up front?
Trust and credibility. I'm not going to live that down in my own head, but I am going to move on.
You didn't have breakfast, did you?
No. Okay, so this is where Haylee and I might have some differing views. So from a marketer's perspective, there are costs involved in saving money. So the kind of things that people tend to think they can save money on are listed there. So your design and branding, a website, SEO, content creation, social media management, as you've just discussed, Haylee, the writing of the words on your website or your marketing material, and photography. But just because you can save money doesn't mean you should. You need to understand that there's a balance between saving money and doing it yourself against paying for professional help, and the fact that that might mean that if you do it yourself and do a poor job of it, that, or even an adequate but not a great job, that there are going to be potential missed opportunities that wouldn't happen if you paid a pro. So here's a little slide I prepared earlier. Apologies for the cheesiness of the photo, but if you do want to ever waste 10 minutes of your life, do a Google image search of stock photos of women boxing.
I look hot, Kathryn. I'm happy with that.
So Haylee and I are going to have different approaches on this. There's ways of spending cold hard cash that sometimes you don't need to from a finance perspective, and sometimes marketing will argue the point. So this is where I think, Haylee, we can spar a little bit. So with design and branding, there are the tools that are listed there that make it very easy to do your own design. So Canva, Snapper, Stencil, Adobe Spark. You can do stuff yourself. I would advise at the start, if you can, and if you're in a business that appearances matter or will make you look more professional, then I'd opt to get the start of your design done by a designer and then do your own work afterwards. I'm going to just quickly tell you a very quick anecdote. I have new neighbours in my office who have terrible, 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 terrible branding that I think they might have got their grandson to do it, or have paid $5 to through one of those logo makers that you pick some shapes and some colours and away it goes. And I don't think they know that it's terrible branding, because when I was introduced to one of the new people and they asked what I did, and I said I help small businesses with marketing, they said, "What do you think of our marketing?" Which was quite awkward, but luckily they had earlier said to me that they are so busy that they need the opposite of marketing because they want to reduce their number of clients. So it was easy for me to say, you don't even need marketing, rather than you look terrible. They're in a lucky position in that they have a contract with a government department that funnels many, many clients their way, so they don't need marketing. But if they were relying on that, what looks like a $5 logo, they would not be making as good as impression as the people who might pay a little bit more for a logo. Haylee, would you like to argue with me?
No, not at all, Kathryn. However, I would say, like, when you're starting out, I've seen quite a few businesses that sort of go through and rebrand and they actually don't know what they're doing when they start out. And for 12 months down the line, it turns out their business is doing something that they didn't actually think that they were going to be doing. And so then their expensive branding is actually no longer valid.
Yeah.
So for me, it would be a sort of a case of, yes, I do agree getting good design and branding, but actually really understand exactly what your business is and where you're going before spending the money on it.
Have your clear strategy in place beforehand.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Cool. Websites. So there are plenty of tools like Squarespace, Weebly, Wix, WordPress, Rocket, Spark, many others where you can design your own website. I think, like, I'm in complete agreement with Haylee that no new business needs a $10,000 website. I think it depends whether you pay someone who's an expert and not a different kind of designer that wants to design your website. But if you pay somebody whose bread and butter is building websites, I think that's a good route to go if you need a website to make sales for you, to really work hard for you, rather than, you know, a lot of websites, especially when you're starting out, and there's nothing wrong with it, but they're essentially brochureware sites or informative sites, or are there to make you look more professional. So if somebody Googles you, you're not just operating on a Facebook page, you've invested money in web hosting at the very least. I think that that's absolutely fine to do it yourself. If you've got an e-commerce site and that's going to be your sole point of income, the sole way that your business makes money, then I think it is worth investing in a pro to do it, or worth investing in getting help, somebody to tell you how to do it yourself. But again, unless you've got a massive trust fund behind you, $10,000 on a website is a waste of $8,000.
Yeah, and I think from my perspective, there's a lot of that in the background coding and stuff like that Joe Bloggs just isn't going to know, and why would we even want to know, because that's something weird. However, you've still got to come up with the pictures, you've still got to come up with the content, and you've still got to actually come up with all the writing. So if you're, you know, a small business owner and you're prepared to invest your time and energy into writing the stuff, because otherwise you've just got a blank website, there's no reason why you can't set up a Squarespace website, enter all the data, and then actually have someone come in and do all the important stuff over the back. There's probably, in my perspective, no point in paying someone to type up all the stuff you've just handwritten.
Can I advise that, from my perspective as somebody who comes in and sometimes fixes up what people have done, it's better to get that up front. So it's better for somebody to say, when you're putting your words in, do this and that, than, like, this is what happened with that client the other week and their packaging designer. All their headings were completely wrong, and it was a lot of work, much more work to fix it than it would have been to tell them up front, do this. So completely agree with what you say.
And I think that's exactly the same as, like, when we go and set up a Xero file or subscription, you know, we'll actually sit down and go talk to the client and go, this is what it all means, this is how it works. They go off and actually do all the work, and then we just come in and clean up at the end. So less work. The one thing I would say about websites is, if you are going to work with a platform, make sure that you can actually update it and modify it yourself. Do not pay for someone to come in and pay $200 every month just to get your website refreshed. One of the other things I see is the security certificate, where you've actually got to pay, I think it's about $250 every year for a security certificate. Squarespace, that's all built in. So make sure when you're choosing a platform that you actually are aware of all the costs that go along with that particular platform.
Yeah. SEO, if you're wanting to optimize your website for Google, there's lots of tools that are available to help you use your Google Search Console. So if you Google that, if you haven't already, and set up an account, you load your website onto it, and it'll tell you all the things that are not performing as they should, or are meaning that your site might be downgraded in Google search for particular reasons. So that's just a really good diagnostic tool. There's also, if you look on any of, like, Moz is a great site that covers the gamut from beginners who don't know the first thing about SEO to the really serious stuff, but all those places list to sell products. So for e-commerce stuff, I would advise getting somebody to write the words on your site who's a specialist, because again, that's your sole revenue earner, because you can make a huge difference if the wording is what you've written because you don't know any better, or if the wording has been written by a pro because they understand what sells. Everything else I think you can do yourself, and you can Google, how do I write a good about page, or how do I write an effective blog post? There's a million resources on Google, and you know, the higher they are at the top of the search rankings, you'd hope that the better they are, because they're there, because they're popular and they're asking people's questions. So don't be scared just to ask Google for stuff. Photography.
And you can just register for Rachel's personal branding webinar at the end of the month to learn all about how to put your personality into your blog post.
There you go. And I was going to say, Rachel, cover your ears and eyes for this next bit. But if you're not going to hire a photographer, and I would very much advise hiring a photographer because they know what they're doing and can make you and your work look fabulous. But you can do it with your phone, but please ask somebody like Rachel. Actually, that would be really insulting, but ask somebody with a good eye and make sure that your photography is good quality. It's actually really worth, as Rachel would attest, really worth the investment in getting good photography as a way of elevating your brand and your personal brand, rather than crappy, dark photos that don't show you or your work in the best light. Agreed?
Yep, and no selfies.
Not unless you've got massively long arms. Right, so the cost of making decisions reactively, not strategically. When marketing opportunities are put in front of you, you don't have to take them. Most times you want to think about them, but it's very easy because people who are good at sales can make you think that this is a good decision. It's easy to overlook your strategy and what your objectives are, because here's an opportunity and it's at this very crash hot price. Promotional items like pens, fridge magnets, corkscrews, notepads, tote bags, backpacks, paperweights. The people who sell those, I hope there's nobody that's going to listen to the recording. The people who sell those things are very, very nice people generally, but they have jobs, and their job is to sell as much tat as they can. I say tat with a warm heart, but look, pens, corkscrews, I don't know about you guys, but I have magnets on my fridge. I've got no idea what business they're for, but they are good at holding up kids' artworks and shopping lists and things like that. Even the notepads that we discussed earlier, I've got a lot of real estate agent notepads over the years. I love them. They're the right size, they're really handy, but that's not ever going to make me want to hire that person when I want to sell my house. So it's really hard to get a return. And it generally doesn't fit into anybody's overarching strategy. The exception that I would make for that is branded clothing. I think I'm a big advocate of branded clothing. If you're in a supermarket with some very good branded clothing and some clever stuff, or if you're being seen out and about, or, you know, I had one client a couple of years ago who had a really interesting business name, and he used to walk around with his icebreaker jacket with the logo here, and people used to stop him to ask about it. So branded clothing is a really good investment. Pens and corkscrews and magnets are tat, really.
What do you think about sending out Christmas cards and stuff? Like, get professionally designed Christmas cards with your logo and stuff.
I'd put that over to everybody else. They're going to end up in my recycling. If they have a handwritten note, like I've actually got this one because I love the design. So this is one that I got from a designer friend a couple of years ago. It's a branded Christmas card with a bauble, and she'd written a personal message and it was wrapped around a bottle of something. That one's really nice. But if it's just a card, you know, you get those pre-printed cards and it has the signatures already printed, there's no personal message. You know, thanks, that's nice, that's going straight in the recycling.
Yeah.
I think there are more effective ways of getting your eyes. I'd rather that somebody rang me and spent 2 minutes saying, hey, Kathryn, how are you doing? Have a good Christmas. Let's catch up in the new year. That's more personal than a card that's clearly been mass mailed out. But what do you guys think?
Feel free to unmute.
I make cards for all my clients with a photo as a gift that they can then use to give to their clients.
So that's,
I don't know if it's a good idea.
that's nice, because that's personalised.
Okay. I don't know if they use them. Some of them said they do.
Cool.
Yeah. Okay.
Another mistake that I see people make is take advantage of a shit hot offer from PrintStop and get 10,000 brochures printed because it's as cheap as getting 1,000. I can't tell you the number of boxes and boxes and boxes and boxes of other people's print material that I've thrown out because a team member has changed and their face is all over the brochure, or the branding has changed and you can't send out dated stuff, or the phone number has changed, or the call to action has been left off, or in the case of one tourism client, she got a whole lot of DL flyers, put them down at the Napier iSite, wondered why she wasn't getting any responses, and then realized that there was one of the digits in her phone number. She hadn't proofread it before it went to print, so she'd printed 1,000 DL flyers, and then she was taken aback when she rang the number. It went to a person and they wouldn't agree to pass on every single message. They didn't want to play secretary for her, so she had to get them all printed again. That's an expensive mistake. In these days of digital printing, you don't need to go for bulk. You're much better off paying $1 a unit for something and only buy 100 units than 5 cents. This is where my maths is going to fail me, but 5 cents a unit and get 10,000 that you don't need. But don't forget to proofread if you're getting stuff like that done. Another thing that wastes money is pressure from external forces who don't know about marketing. I've had the boss's wife reads this magazine, so we need an ad in this magazine, so she'll see how clever he is. I've had a board member in an organisation that I worked for had family in Parnell, and he decided that it would be really good if we paid $8,000 a month for a billboard on the railway overbridge in Parnell, because that's a really highly visible site. But one billboard that was black and white, so not very impactful, just to keep a board member happy, was not the best use of our $18,000. Community sponsorship. Mitre 10 sponsors my kids' soccer team, and that's a really nice, lovely thing that they do, but I'm pretty certain that it hasn't driven any business to Mitre 10 because there's only, Bunnings is about to close. Mitre 10 is the only type of that store. People are going to go there anyway. It's lovely to have nice warm feelings about them, but I'm pretty sure they're very clear that that's a kind, community-minded thing to do rather than a sponsorship that they're going to make money off. I would say something like Tremaines is a different story. They're quite strategic. They do the triathlon, they do the Christmas lights, they do open homes for or garden tours and things for schools, but they also will be spending money on leveraging those sponsorships. So if you're thinking about a sponsorship, just make clear in your head, is this just from the kindness of my heart, or is this a commercial activity where you expect some sort of commercial return? And if you are expecting a commercial return, you're going to have to pay money to make sure that people know about it and can take advantage of that commercial return.
And I always sort of say to people, because there are so many schools, charities, they all want you to pay $100 for this or $100 for that. So I always say to people, when people ring, actually say to them that you take applications in the months of January and February, and then you decide for your next financial year how much money you're going to hand out, and you don't do community sponsorship through the rest of the year.
Yeah.
It's just easier, safer, and it's nicer to say no.
Yeah.
That way.
Yeah. Another opportunity that people take is to chase bright, shiny baubles. So I don't know if you guys remember, but several years ago, virtual reality marketing was going to be the next big thing. TikTok at the moment has 800 million users, and you hear a lot in talk and marketing circles about taking advantage of TikTok, and that's fine. Those might be things that will add value to your business, but not if they don't fit into your overall strategy, and certainly not if it distracts you from doing the things that you should be doing. And copying, you might see somebody else do something and think, hey, that's going to work for me, and that's an understandable thing. But if you don't have the strategy behind it or the resources that they have, just because somebody else has done something that's been successful doesn't mean that it's going to work for you. And again, if it's not fitting into your overall strategy, you're just throwing money away. Measuring results, if you don't measure, as we said, you can't tell whether your money was well spent, wasted, or falls somewhere in between. So how to evaluate and measure. So take a note of the marketing activity that you do and put it in your diary to review it, whether that's a month later, 2 months, 3 months, whatever makes sense for what the activity is. If you're running a campaign, for example, on social media, don't just send people to your homepage, send them to a landing page or a page that's relevant to what your offer or your campaign is about. That way you can track your results in your analytics as well. You can track your website hits, sales, queries. Ask customers, you should all be doing this, and I think you all do, the ones that I can see here, but ask customers how they heard about you, and ask them when they're on the point of purchase, what made them buy today, and see if you can prove me wrong. And they say, why, that fridge magnet that's been on my fridge for 5 years has finally made me take action. I'm going to give you a quick example of how all that works with I did a little campaign at the start of lockdown. It was done very quickly, and I didn't think it through because I wasn't thinking straight at the time. But so my Taking Tiny Actions was an email sequence of a month of little things that you could do every day. So if you were bamboozled by lockdown and did this one thing every day, at least you'd have some things that you'd done under your belt for your marketing. I did a Facebook post and an Instagram post. I had a landing page, so the clicks on those two social media posts went to a page that was particularly to sign up for the prompts. In my web analytics, I had 54 hits on that particular page, that landing page. Some of those I know will be me testing the links, so it's not 100% accurate, but I'd say probably half a dozen of those were me testing things, and I had 31 people sign up for it. So when I evaluate that, I made a big mistake at the start because I didn't have an objective. I wasn't thinking clearly, so I didn't think, hey, I'd like 50 people to sign up within 4 weeks. It was just, I'm doing this myself. If somebody wants to come along and do it with me, then these are the options. But there was no measurable objective. So I got 44 clicks in total across the Instagram and Facebook posts. The page had 54 hits. There were 31 sign-ups, which means that of the people that visited the site, assuming we're not counting the fact that I probably did half a dozen myself, but of the 54 hits on the site, 31 sign-ups means a conversion rate of 57%, which is pretty good. But it's hard to evaluate because I didn't set an objective at the start. But I'm pretty happy with that. But that's one way that you can start to record how well you're doing. So back to our earlier examples from the start, $20 boosting a Facebook post, but it didn't get results. As you've seen from that Instagram post with the bicycling man working from home, that was probably not the best choice of post to get the results that they wanted. And I know that it's easy just to throw money at boosting posts, but golden rule, go back to the strategy. $20 boosting a Facebook post wouldn't be a waste of money necessarily if it got you new followers or if it broadened people's awareness of you or your product. Those things can be hard to measure, but a boosted Facebook post is not necessarily a failure, but it's not always the best choice. That was a complete waste of money, but I've had another client since use a proper expert, one that costs $800 a month, and they saw results within, I think it was within 6 days. They'd gone from not on the first page of the Google results to page 2. And that was just because this guy had a level of expertise and knew the little things to tweak that would have taken me or them a lifetime to get to. So he was definitely worth the money that they spent, because they're in an industry where people pay like 5-figure sums for what they do. So that was very, very worthwhile investment. We've already talked about the ad in the back of Kiora magazine. There's no point doing a print ad, and especially a small print ad, once. You need consistency. You need people to get used to seeing it before it happens. So that was $700 down the drain. We've already dissed branded notebooks. We've already talked about the website. That still breaks my heart that that was a charity that paid £27,000 and it didn't do what they wanted it to do. This was a cautionary tale. Some people had a course that they were selling, and so they gave this influencer free access to the course. So it was hers for free, and she was supposed to promote it. They didn't have anything in writing. They didn't, like, I'm not suggesting necessarily a legal document, but they had no agreement about what she was going to do. And she did 2 or 3 half-hearted posts. Nobody even clicked through, let alone bought the product. So whilst it was free access to something that was existing, that's still, I think it was a $250 product that they gave away and have got absolutely nothing to show for it except a sour taste in their mouth. And that was me many years ago. My boss wanted market research. I said, I think we understand from previous research and from anecdotally, I think we understand the things that you want to find out from this research, and I think it's X, Y, Z. No, he wanted to pay for it, so that's fine. It was in the budget. We paid $17,000 for some research that told us exactly what we already knew. From my perspective, that was a waste of $17,000. From his perspective, that was me. That was me wasting $17,000. But when he talked to the board, it was $17,000 for peace of mind, because now our assumptions had been verified. So I guess it's like, that was a company that could afford to pay that amount of money. I don't know small businesses that would want to waste even a third or a quarter of that amount to find out what they already know. Were there any, Haylee, did anyone?
So Paula raised a really valuable point. Would networking membership fall into a waste of marketing money? Some groups with membership are just clubs and they don't really add value. And some of those groups are very expensive.
Some of those groups are very expensive. I think you need to do your research first and talk to other members. I joined a networking group and paid for a year's subscription. It wasn't a lot of money. I didn't get anything out of it at all, because I'm not, as you know, I'm not a Facebook person, and it was all in the Facebook groups, but also a lot of the resources that they provided were things that I didn't get any value from, because they were either irrelevant to my business or I already knew them. I know the face-to-face ones. I get feedback from people within various groups in Hawke's Bay saying, this is a waste of time and money, because there's only ever about 2 people that you're ever going to do business with. So you meet them on the first day, and then it's other people trying to push their stuff onto you. I think those networking groups there, you've got to understand the philosophy behind them and then work out whether that sits with your values or not, and whether it's going to get you exposed to the people that you want to be exposed to.
And I think too, some of those groups, you're expected to actually supply referrals out. So then that means that you're focusing on someone else's business, because you've got the expectation of supplying referrals. So if that is the case, you're better off to possibly save your money and actually focus on your own business and find other ways to network with people.
Also, I don't want to give referrals to people who I've not either used myself or somebody that I really trust says, this guy is great or this woman is really good. I don't want to refer people just because we're in the same networking group, because if they do a crappy job, that reflects on me.
Yeah. And we're probably going to get into trouble for that anyway. Local rag newspapers seem to work. Not too sure about radio advertising. I've never really had much luck with radio advertising. And yes, I think personally I've seen good results in the local, the Hastings Leader and the Nature Mail and all those little papers, possibly not so much the Hawke's Bay Today, the bigger papers.
I did an Instagram poll earlier in the week or last week about local papers because we don't get it at home, and because I've got a no junk mail sticker, and some legislation changed in May last year, and I rang them and said I want the courier, and they said we can't if you've got no junk mail. And when I balanced it out, I don't want junk mail just so I can read the courier.
Yep.
And now that I'm in the office, they get one delivered here, so that's great because I think a lot of people do read those. But I did put a poll up about whether people read local papers, and it was quite interesting. More people do than don't. 57% do read their local paper, their community newspaper. 43% don't, but of the ones that don't, some of them sent me messages saying, because it doesn't get delivered, but I'd like to if it did get delivered.
Yeah.
And then of the people that I was familiar with who they are, it was the people who are younger, like people in their 20s that don't read the community newspapers. So I think community newspapers can be a really good way into people's hearts and minds. The Courier or the Mail used to run a couple of years ago a little small business focus, and one of the mums from school who had just started a massage business, she was featured. She was booked out for the next 3 months based on that one little 2-column spread in the Napier Courier.
Yeah, and I think those little papers are where you actually get to the heart of people, and it's free. So there's no it's just available for them to actually sit down and read when they're having a coffee or something. So
yeah,
and I think the last one, like Janine said here, she's actually spent money boosting Facebook posts and had very little back. But then my own from a former life. We had a whole bunch of flyers printed, and then I paid to have them delivered out to letterboxes and junk mail and all that sort of stuff, and didn't get anything. I think we had about 10,000 go out and got absolutely nothing back. And so that was, we're probably talking 10 years ago plus, but that mythology is still actually out there. I had someone a couple of months ago was told that they needed to print flyers and walk around and drop them into people's letterboxes, and it just doesn't work.
The only time that I can recall in the last 10 years where a letterbox drop has worked is when a teenage girl around the corner went and said, I'm available for babysitting. And I kept that one in a drawer because I thought when the grandparents are unavailable, having somebody from just around the corner is useful to me. So that's the only time I've ever kept a letterbox drop. The rest of them go straight to the recycling.
And I think you can't actually trust just junk mail, really. There's no connection. There's no way that you could, we get the letters from the real estate agents all the time. Do you want to sell your house? Rah, 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 rah. There's no connection. So I think that's where the best way of not wasting money is to make sure that any marketing you do actually has your personal brand in it, and you've got an objective as to what you're trying to achieve. Would you say?
Yeah, always have an objective.
But then, Rachel and Janine, have you guys got any questions that you want to have covered off? Rachel looks like she's going to say something. And now I've said that, she actually has to.
I can't remember what I put in the chat. Did I put in the questions?
There was a lot you put in the chat.
Might have been just ridiculous stuff, though.
Oh, where'd my chat go?
Oh, wow. Lots in the chat.
Yeah, maybe look through there and see other people's stuff.
Yeah, and I think it's the same thing where you were talking about branded clothing, branded vehicles as well.
Yes.
My only thing there would be shop around, get some quotes. I've had some people pay $450 to get their car sign written, which is still really good quality compared to $1,500. So it is the company that you choose to work with. But the biggest thing that I was always told as an employee was when you're driving a branded vehicle, that is a mobile billboard, so don't drive like a complete muppet. Which I tell my child all the time when he's driving my car, it is a branded vehicle, please drive sensibly, and keep it clean, because if your car's filthy and it's sign written, that's not a good look.
Guilty. That's why I tell people all the time, branded vehicles, branded clothing, but my brand is my name, so I don't want to drive around with my name on there, because I spent too much time in Greece and I'm very good at honking the horn to let people know, like, kindly, hey, the lights changed. People don't take it kindly when I am just saying, oh, look. And also I'm not very good at keeping my car clean, so it's better to remain anonymous. But I do, like, monthly wrestle with the fact that I should get branding on my car.
So I think hopefully everyone's taken away something from this. I think the key points for me as working in the finance sector with startups and stuff like that is, yes, you can go out and do lots of branding and spend lots of money on it. Make sure that what you're going to spend money on is actually what you're going to keep. So really develop who you are, what you're doing, and actually have a really good understanding of your business, because you don't want to spend $1,000 designing a fancy logo and getting your branding and your colours and your fonts and stuff organised, only to then change it in 6 months' time.
Absolutely.
But definitely there is a place and a time to actually learn about branding. Use your personal branding, like make sure that whatever you do, that you are connecting with your client base. And it doesn't need to cost money to be genuine, I think would be the key thing there. But at some point in time, you do actually need to work with professionals who can actually tell you everything that you don't know, which is where I think it's really important to work with people like Kathryn and like Rachel to actually fill in all those gaps. We can try and do everything, but the reality is we can't. So you wouldn't take your car to me and get me to replace your engine, so don't actually expect to be able to do the stuff that all these other people can do.
Haylee, have we finally identified something that you can't do?
Yeah, but I know people because I'm like the mafia and I can connect you up. So on that note, thank you very much for giving up your time. I know that there's a lot of people that are going to be watching this recording, and so if you have any questions, feel free to get in touch with either myself or Kathryn McGarvey. I will actually, on YouTube, when I upload this, I'll put in all our contact details. So if you do actually want to contact us, just look down below in the description thingy, and all the information will be there for you. So otherwise, enjoy the month of June. This is Education Month. Next week we have everything you need to know about social media with Social Smarty. The following week, we've got the lovely Kathryn back talking about how not to waste money on websites. And then at the end of June, we're finishing with a big hurrah, like fireworks at Disneyland, with Rachel Ross talking about personal branding and how to develop that to connect better with your clients. I've just set you up for a really big event, Rachel.
Yay.
So thank you very much, and enjoy the rest of your day.
Thanks, Haylee.
Thanks. Bye.
See you.